Kale was hiding behind a broken wall. The sky above him was no longer blue. It was full of fire, smoke, and falling ships. Screams echoed in the distance. Buildings were crashing. His world was ending. He had never seen anything like this. One moment, everything was normal. Then the attack began. No warning, no message. Just fire from the sky. His people tried to fight back. They launched defense drones and weapons. But it was useless. The enemy ships were too many. Too fast, they came like shadows, and they didn't stop. Kale's mother had pulled him into the shelter. She gave him a small metal pendant. "Run," she had said. "Don't stop, no matter what happens." He had run, but he had also watched her turn and face the burning hallway. That was the last time he saw her. Now, Kale was alone. Just a young alien with green skin and glowing eyes. Dust covered his clothes, and his legs were shaking. He had no weapon, no food, and no family left. All he had was a broken emergency pod. He found it crashed in the trees outside the city. The pilot was dead, but the pod still worked. Kale climbed in, pressed buttons he didn't understand. He wasn't trained for this, but he wanted to live. He wanted to escape. The pod lifted off with a low hum. It pushed through the smoke, past the fire, and into the cold dark of space. He looked down one last time. His home was gone. His heart was heavy. The stars looked peaceful, but Kale knew better. The enemy was still out there, and now he was just a drifting target. The pod had no destination. It was just moving forward. Kale sat inside, breathing slowly. Each breath felt harder than the last. He was running out of air. He opened the small survival pack, only 2 water packets, 1 energy bar, and a small radio. The radio had a red light blinking. It was sending a distress signal. He didn't know if anyone would hear it. He didn't know if anyone would care. His people always said humans were dangerous, cold, greedy, and full of hate. But right now, Kale would welcome even a human ship. Anything was better than dying alone. Hours passed, maybe more. He was falling in and out of sleep. The pods. Lights were dimming. Oxygen was low. The cold was seeping in. Kale's head leaned against the seat, his eyes half closed. The radio's light blinked one last time, then stopped. He was ready to let go, but then something happened. The pod shook. A new light blinked on the control panel, a tractor beam. Another ship had locked onto him. Kale opened his eyes with effort. He looked through the window. A large ship was pulling him in. It was not one of his people's ships. It was human, sleek, dark gray with glowing blue engines. A human rescue vessel. Fear and hope crashed inside him. He didn't know what they would do to him, but he had no choice. His pod was out of power. He was already half dead. The pod landed gently inside the docking bay. Kale stayed still, not moving, not speaking. He could hear sounds outside, boots on metal, voices, tools. Then the door hissed open. Light poured into the pod. Kale flinched. Covering his face, he expected shouting, maybe a weapon pointed at him. But instead, there was silence. Then, a soft voice, calm and careful. "Can you hear me?" Kale didn't answer. His eyes blinked open slowly. A human stood there. A woman in a black and silver suit. She had dark eyes and short brown hair under her helmet. Her voice was not angry. It was gentle. "You're injured," she said. "We're not going to hurt you." Kale still didn't move. His body was frozen. The human stepped forward slowly. She knelt beside him, placing a scanner on his chest. "Your heart rate is weak," she said. "We need to get you to medbay." Kale finally whispered, "Why? Help me." The human paused. Then she looked at him directly and said, "Because you're not safe out here." Tears formed in Kale's eyes. He didn't even understand why. He had seen death, destruction, and hate. But now, in the middle of the enemy's ship, he felt something else. He felt Care, as he lost consciousness, he heard her voice again. Softer this time. You're safe now. Cale woke up in a white room, soft lights above him, clean air around him. He was on a medical bed, connected to a few machines. His wounds were treated. His body was warm. He turned his head slowly. There was no cage, no guards, just peace. A door opened, and the same human woman stepped inside. She smiled. "Welcome back," she said. Cale tried to speak, but his throat was dry. She handed him a cup of water. He drank slowly, feeling his strength return. "My name is Captain Elena Rowe," she said. "You were found alone in a dead pod." Cale nodded weakly. "My name is Cale. Nice to meet you, Cale," she said. "You're lucky we found you in time." He looked at her with tired eyes. "My home is gone," he whispered. "They took everything from me." She sat beside him. "I'm sorry," she said. "I've seen that happen before." He stared at the ceiling. "I don't know what to do." Elena stood up and said gently, "You don't have to do anything right now. Just rest." As she walked to the door, Cale asked one more question. "Why did you save me?" Elena turned and gave him a small, kind smile. "Because sometimes," she said, "we all need someone to whisper." "You're safe now." Cale closed his eyes again. For the first time in what felt like forever, he believed her. Cale sat on the edge of the medical bed. His body still felt weak, but the pain had lessened. The room around him was quiet, bright, and warm. It didn't feel like a prison. It felt safe. The human crew had given him clean clothes, soft food, and space to breathe. But still, Cale couldn't relax. His mind was full of fear, confusion, and questions. Why were the humans helping him? Why didn't they lock him away? Or worse, kill him like his people always warned? The door opened with a soft sound. Captain Elena Rowe stepped in. She wore a light gray jacket with the ship's symbol on the arm. Her voice was calm as always. "Good to see you sitting up, Cale," she said. "We're glad you're healing." Cale looked at her for a moment, then nodded. Thank you," he said. Slowly. "You're welcome," Elena replied. "Would you like a walk?" Cale blinked, unsure. "You mean?" "Outside this room," she smiled. "Yes. Around the ship. You've been locked inside too long." Cale stood carefully, testing his legs. They still shook a bit, but he was strong enough. "Okay," he said. They walked through the narrow hallways. The ship was alive with movement. Humans walked past carrying tools, crates, and datapads. Some looked at Cale with wide eyes. Others avoided looking at him at all. He could feel the tension in their stares. "They don't trust me," Cale said quietly. "They don't know you yet," Elena replied. "But that can change." They reached a wide-open area with chairs, screens, and a large window showing the stars. "This is our commons area," Elena said. "Crew eats here, talks here, sometimes just sits to watch space." Cale looked out the window. The stars stretched in every direction, cold, bright, and endless. "I was told humans only take," Cale said, "resources, land, power." Elena didn't look surprised. "Okay. And we were told your kind don't feel anything," she said. "No kindness, no sorrow, no fear." Cale turned to her. "And what do you believe now?" She smiled slightly. "I believe you lost your home," she said. "And I saw fear in your eyes when we pulled you from that pod." "That's more than programming, Cale." He said nothing. The truth was, he didn't know who he was anymore. He had been trained to fight, to follow, to survive. But now he didn't know what came next. Just then, a tall man with sharp eyes entered the room. He wore dark gear and had a scanner on his belt. Cale immediately felt the change in the room. "Captain," the man said with a cold tone. "You didn't say our guest would be wandering around?" Elena turned. "Cale needs to stretch and see the ship." The man crossed his arms. "Some of the crew aren't happy," he said. They don't like sleeping next to an alien who might be a spy. Kale stayed silent, but his hands curled slightly. Reed, Alina said firmly. He is under my protection. Reed stared at Kale. You're lucky she trusts you, he said, but I'm watching. Then he walked away. Kale looked at Alina. I should go back to the room, he said. No. She said, you didn't come here to hide. You survived something most couldn't. Don't let fear lock you up again. Kale nodded slowly. Maybe she was right. Maybe fear was just another cage. The next day, Kale offered to help in the engineering bay. He had trained as a systems assistant back home. The chief engineer, a woman named Harper, was unsure at first. Can you even read human schematics? She asked. Kale looked at the broken cooling valve. Yes, he said simply. Harper gave him tools and stood back. Within minutes, Kale had fixed the leak and rerouted the power flow. Not bad, she muttered. She didn't smile, but she let him stay. Over the next few days, Kale fixed power grids, door controls, and cooling units. He worked quietly, always finishing the job fast and clean. Some crew members began to nod at him in the halls. A few even said hello. Not everyone trusted him, but the ice was starting to crack. One evening, Kale sat alone in the commons area. He stared out the window again. Hands resting on the table, Captain Alina joined him, carrying 2 mugs of something warm. Tea, she said, handing him one. It helps. Kale took a sip. Was bitter, but not bad. You're fitting in better than expected, she said. Kale didn't answer right away. Then he said, it feels strange. What does? This, he said, kindness, space. People talking to me without shouting. Alina nodded. Some of us come from hard places, she said. Kindness feels dangerous until you get used to it. Kale looked at her. My people said humans are liars, he said. But you haven't lied to me yet. She smiled. Maybe it's time to write news stories. Just then, an alarm beeped. Alina stood quickly and tapped her earpiece. Go ahead, she said. Captain, a voice replied. We're picking up a signal. Encrypted, possibly alien. Kale's heart skipped. Alien. He repeated, can I hear it? They rushed to the bridge. The screen showed a faint signal, long range, old format, but familiar. Kale listened to the pattern. His face changed. I know this code, he said. It's from my people. The crew looked at each other, surprised. Are they survivors? Alina asked. Maybe, Kale said. Or maybe it's something worse. The signal repeated again. It carried coordinates, a location deep in a nearby system. We're close enough to reach it in 2 days, the pilot said. Alina turned to Kale. What do you want to do? Kale's voice was low, steady. I have to go, he said. If someone survived, I need to know. Alina nodded. Then we'll go, she said. But stay sharp. This could be a trap. Kale stood at the edge of the bridge, eyes locked on the stars. A part of him felt hope. A part of him felt fear. He had found something like peace on this ship. But now the past was calling. Was it a chance to reconnect? Or would he lose everything again? As the ship turned toward the unknown signal, Kale whispered one word. Home. He didn't know if it still existed, but he was ready to face it. Kale stood near the front window of the ship's bridge. Stars passed by slowly as the ship moved through the dark system. The coordinates from the signal were not far now, but Kale's heart was heavy. He had worked with the human crew for days. He had helped them repair systems, track signals, and even saved a technician from an electric fire. Slowly, they had started trusting him, but now, with this message from his own people, he felt torn again. Captain Alina Rowe entered the bridge and stood beside him. You've been quiet, she said. I'm thinking, Kale replied, about the signal. She asked. Kale nodded. It's from my species, he said. I should be happy. But you're not, Alina guessed. No, he said. I don't know what I'll find. Maybe survivors, maybe ghosts, or maybe the ones who ran away while my home was burning. Alina didn't say anything right away. She understood what silence meant sometimes. Kale turned to her. What if they hate me for being with humans? Then that's on them, she said. You helped us, protected us, earned our trust. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Kale looked out the window again. But they're my people, he said. What if they ask me to choose? Then you'll choose what's right, Alina said calmly. You've already done that before. The ship slowed as it neared the signal source. A small ship floated alone in space. No weapons active, no movement. It looked damaged but not dead. Luca, the technician, checked the scans. Life signs detected. He said, just one. Maybe two. Can we dock? Alina asked. Yes, but with caution, Luca said. This might be a trap. I'll go, Kale said suddenly. If someone's there, they'll speak my language. Alina nodded. I'll send Reed and Luca with you, she said. You won't go alone. Minutes later, Kale stood in a small shuttle with Reed and Luca. They wore light armor and carried stun weapons. Kale had only a communicator and a translator unit. As they approached the damaged alien ship, Kale felt something. Strange nervousness, hope, and fear all mixed together. The docking port opened with a hiss. Cold air greeted them. Kale stepped in first, his boots echoing on the metal floor. Stay close, Reed whispered behind him. The inside of the ship was dark. Emergency lights blinked, and the smell of burned circuits filled the air. Kale moved slowly toward the source of the life sign. They passed empty rooms, broken control panels, and flickering lights. Then, a sound, a weak breath. A cough. Kale froze. He knew that voice. He stepped into the next room. On the floor, leaning against a wall, was a figure, thin, wounded, and covered in dirt but alive. Thalen, Kale whispered. The figure looked up slowly. His eyes widened in shock. Kale, he said weakly. I thought you were dead. Kale rushed forward, dropping to his knees. I thought you were all gone, he said. What happened? Thalen coughed again. They attacked too fast. He said, we tried to escape, but our ships were hit. Some of us ran, others hid. Kale helped him sit up. You sent the signal. Yes, Thalen said. We had no food, no power. I thought no one would come. Reed and Luca stood back, watching carefully. Kale turned to them. He's my brother, he said quietly. Reed raised an eyebrow. Really? Kale nodded. We were in different cities during the attack. Thalen looked past Kale and saw the humans. His face hardened. You're with them? He asked, why? They saved me, Kale said. They took care of me when no one else did. They're our enemy, Thalen said sharply. They destroyed colonies, stole our technology. Maybe, Kale replied, but they didn't destroy my home. It was someone else in known ships. No symbols, no warning. Thalen looked unsure. But they're still not our kind, he said. They treated me better than some of our own, Kale said. They saw me as a person, not just a soldier. Silence filled the room. Then Thalen whispered, do you really trust them? Kale looked back at Reed and Luca. They stood alert but didn't aim weapons. They didn't yell, didn't attack. I trust them more than I trust anyone right now, Kale said. Thalen looked away. I'm tired, he said. Take me out. Of here, they returned to the main ship. Thalen was taken to the medical bay. He was weak, but stable. Kale sat outside the room, lost in thought. Alina joined him, holding 2 mugs again. Want some tea? She asked. Kale took it without speaking. How did it go? Alina asked. He's alive, Kale said, but he doesn't understand. He's been through a lot. Alina said, give him time. Kale looked at her. I'm stuck, he said. Between 2 worlds, Alina nodded. You're not the only one, she said. I've met many people like that. They find their own path. What if I don't belong anywhere? Kale asked. Then build your own place, Alina said. Here, with us. Kale smiled for a second, then looked at the stars again. Later, Thalen woke and asked to speak with Kale alone. Kale entered the room slowly. I was thinking, Thalen said, you're different now. I had to be, Kale replied. I don't like them, Thalen said. But I can't deny they saved you. Kale nodded. They didn't have to. He said, they chose to. I don't know if I can. Stay here, Thalen said, but maybe you can. Kale was surprised. You'd accept that? I don't have to understand everything, Thalen said, but I won't stop you. Kale sat beside him. Thank you, he whispered. For the first time in a long while, Kale felt peace. He didn't have all the answers. He had a path. He was not just a survivor. He was something more, something new. And no matter what happened next, he would walk forward between two worlds. Kale sat alone in the engine room. The soft hum of machines surrounded him. He had worked here many times over the past few days. It helped him think, helped him feel normal. But today was different. His brother Thalen was recovering in the med bay. They hadn't spoken much since their last talk. Thalen still didn't trust the humans. He didn't say it directly, but Kale could feel it. The door opened and Luca stepped inside. He carried a small data pad and looked excited. Kale? He said, you need to come to the bridge. Kale stood quickly. Why? What happened? We picked up another signal, Luca replied. It's not like the last one. It's strong, coded, and angry. Kale followed Luca through the ship's hallway. The crew moved around them with urgency. Voices filled the comms. Something was coming. When they reached the bridge, Captain Alina Rowe was already there. She stood in front of a large screen, arms crossed, face serious. Kale, she said, without turning. Listen to this. Luca tapped the console. A deep, metallic voice played through the speakers. This is Commander Draxel of the Varnock Remnant Fleet. You are holding two of our kind. Surrender them, or face destruction. Kale froze. Draxel, that name felt like a shadow from his past. He was one of the senior commanders, Kale said. He vanished after the fall of the capital. Alina turned to him. You know him? Yes, Kale said. He believed in pure bloodlines. Old rules, power above all. He's dangerous. We checked the location, Luca added. His ship is 10 times the size of ours. He's not bluffing, Kale said. If we don't give him what he wants, he will attack. The bridge was silent. Every crew member looked at Alina. She looked at Kale. What would he do to you? She asked softly. Kale didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, execute me. And your brother. Kale lowered his head. He would force him to fight or die. Alina turned back to the screen. He gave us 2 hours to respond. She said, we need a plan. Kale looked at her. I can go. He said, maybe I can talk to him. No. Alina said quickly, that's not an option. He wants me, Kale replied. If I don't go, he'll attack the ship. We'll fight, Reed said from the side of the bridge. We're not giving you up. Kale looked at Reed, surprised. It was the first time he heard Reed speak those words. Not with anger, but with loyalty. You still don't like me, Kale said. No, Reed answered, but you're one of us now. Kale felt something warm in his chest. He had been accepted finally. Truly, we'll prepare for battle, Alina said, but we won't go down easy. 2 hours passed like minutes. The crew worked fast. Shields were charged, weapons loaded, engines ready to move. Kale stood in the med bay with his brother. Thalen looked pale but alert. They're going to fight Draxel? He asked. Yes, Kale said. They won't give us up. Thalen looked shocked. They're humans, he said. Why would they risk their lives for us? Because they believe in something different, Kale replied. They don't follow old rules. Thalen sat quietly, then said, "You've changed." Kale nodded. "I had to, outside the ship." The enemy vessel arrived. It was massive. Covered in dark armor and glowing red lights, it moved like a beast in the dark. Slow but full of power, Draxel's voice came again. "This is your final warning. Surrender the traitors, or face fire." Alina stood on the bridge. She pressed the come button. "This is Captain Elena Rowe," she said calmly. "We do not surrender, crew." There was silence for a moment, then weapons on the enemy ship began to glow. "Brace for impact." Luca shouted. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew from control panels. Sirens rang. Red lights flashed. "Return fire." Alina ordered. Reed fired the ship's main cannon. A bright blast hit the enemy shields, but it barely left a scratch. "There. Too strong." Someone shouted. Kale stood near the back of the bridge. He looked at the enemy ship on the screen. Then an idea formed. Crazy but possible. "I can stop them," Kale said suddenly. "I know their codes." Alina turned to him. "What do you mean?" "I was trained in command systems," Kale said. "I can overload their power core if I get inside." "That's suicide." Reed said. "Maybe," Kale replied. "But if I don't try, we all die." Alina stared at him. She saw his eyes full of fear, but also full of courage. She nodded. "Luca," she said, "prepare a stealth shuttle." Minutes later, Kale sat inside the small ship. He wore a pressure suit and carried a toolkit. No weapons. This was not a battle, it was a mission. The shuttle launched, silent and fast. It moved under the enemy ship, invisible to their sensors. Kale entered through a maintenance hatch. He crawled through dark tunnels and old vents. His heart pounded, his breath short. He reached the power core room. 2 guards stood nearby. Kale used an old Varnock passcode. The door opened with a beep. The guards turned surprised. Kale moved fast, slammed one against the wall, dodged the other, and hit a control switch. The room went dark for a second. He rushed to the control panel and began typing. Old codes, forgotten routines, backdoor access. The screen blinked. "Access granted," he said. The system to overload slowly, just enough time to escape. Kale to Alina. He whispered into his comm. "Get ready to move." Back on the human ship, Alina shouted. "Full speed now." The engines roared. The ship pulled away just as the enemy vessel began to shake. Inside, Kale ran back through the vents. Alarms blared, red lights flashed. He reached the shuttle bay and jumped into the seat. "Go, go, go." He shouted. The shuttle shot away just as the enemy ship exploded. A silent blast lit the sky, fire and debris spreading everywhere. Kale leaned back, breathing hard. He had made it. Back on the main ship, cheers erupted. Alina watched the screen and whispered, "He did it." When Kale returned, the crew gathered to meet him. Even Reed gave him a firm nod. Thalen stood nearby. Shocked. "You risked your life," he said. "For them." Kale replied, "For all of us, that night." Kale sat quietly in his room. He held the old pendant his mother gave him. It reminded him of everything he lost, but also everything he had found. Not just a place to survive, but a place to belong. And in the silence of space, he heard those words again, soft, powerful, true. "You're safe now." The ship floated in silence after the battle. The stars outside blinked slowly, as if watching from a distance. Inside, the crew was busy checking systems, repairing wires, and patching the damage. Smoke still rose from broken panels, but the danger had passed. Kale stood near the engine room, wiping oil from his hands. He had helped Harper fix the cooling system again. It was a small job, but it made him feel useful. He looked around at the crew moving past. Some nodded at him now, others smiled politely, but still. Some looked the other way when he walked by. Kale understood. The past didn't disappear in. One day, Trust takes time, and trust, he knew, isn't free. Later, Captain Alina called a meeting in the commons area. The crew gathered, some sitting, some standing, some leaning against the wall. We stopped Commander Draxil. Alina said, "But don't forget, this ship is still marked. Other Varnak forces may try the same thing." Reed crossed his arms. "And what if they come again?" "We'll defend ourselves," Alina replied, "but we need to be smart." Harper raised a hand. "What about the 2 Varnak on board?" she asked Kale and his brother. A few heads turned toward Kale. He stayed quiet, eyes low. "They've helped us," Alina said. "They risked their lives, but can we be sure?" Another crew member asked, "What if it's all a plan?" Kale finally spoke. "I understand your fear," he said. "I felt the same way when I first met you, but I have no reason to betray this ship. You used to be one of them." Someone said. "I used to be," Kale replied, "but I'm not anymore." Reed stared at him for a long time, then nodded slowly. "We watch each other," Reed said. "That's how trust grows." The meeting ended, but the air felt tense. Kale walked back to his quarters. He passed Thalen in the hallway. "They still don't trust us," Thalen said. "Would you?" Kale asked. Thalen gave a small laugh. "No," he said, "but I wouldn't have saved them either." Kale stopped walking. "Why did you send that signal?" he asked. "That first one, was it really just for help?" Kalen looked away. "I didn't know who would come," he said. "I thought maybe someone strong would rescue me. You hoped it was Varnak." Kale said, "I didn't expect you," Thalen replied, "especially not in a human ship." Kale felt a knot in his stomach. "Did you call Draxil too?" Thalen paused. "No," he said, "I didn't." Kale wanted to believe him, but doubt had already started growing in his heart. That night, an alarm rang through the halls. Kale woke quickly and ran to the bridge. "We've had a breach," Alina said. "Small explosion in the armory. Sabotage." Reed asked. "Looks like it," Luca replied. "No one was hurt, but our backup weapons are gone." Everyone looked at Kale. He could feel their eyes, heavy with suspicion. "I didn't do it," he said firmly. "I believe you," Alina said, "but we need to check everything." Security teams began searching the ship. Kale sat in his room. Alone, he stared at the wall. Thinking hard, someone wanted to break the trust he had built. Someone wanted to turn the crew against him. Then, he remembered something. A tiny detail. Thalen had been walking near the armory hallway just yesterday. Kale rushed to the med bay. Thalen was there, pretending to read a datapad. "We need to talk," Kale said. Thalen raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "About the explosion," Kale said. "Don't lie to me." Thalen stood up slowly. "I didn't plant it," he said. "But you know who did," Kale replied. Silence. Then Thalen sighed. "There was a message," he said. "Before Draxil came, someone else sent it." "Who?" Kale asked. "A loyalist," Thalen said. "Someone who believes in the old ways. He promised safety if I helped." "You said nothing," Kale whispered. "I didn't want to lose you again," Thalen said. "But I couldn't choose." Kale stepped back. "I did choose," he said. "I chose this ship, these people." "They're not your kind," Thalen said. "They're my family now," Kale replied. Kale walked straight to the bridge and told Alina everything. Thalen's secret message, the promise of escape, the possible sabotage. Alina listened carefully. "Thank you," she said. "This couldn't have been easy." Kale looked down. "I didn't want it to be true." Alina placed a hand on his shoulder. "Doing the right thing is rarely easy." Reed entered the bridge a moment later. "We found more explosives near the water tanks," he said. "They hadn't been activated yet." Alina nodded. "Lock Thalen in the lower cell," she said. Kale said nothing as the guards escorted his brother away. He just stood there, heart heavy. Later, Kale sat in the commons area alone. Luca brought him some tea and sat down beside him. "You okay?" Luca asked. "No," Cale replied honestly, "but I did what had to be done." "That's what makes you one of us," Luca said. "Not your skin, not your name, your choices." Cale looked at the stars through the window. He thought of his mother's last words. "Run," she had said. But now he didn't want to run anymore. He had fought for this ship, protected it, saved it. And when it mattered most, he had chosen it over his own blood. Trust had a price, and Cale had paid it, but now he had something more. A real place, a real crew. And something deeper than all of that. He had loyalty. He had family. He had earned his place, even if it hurt. Even if it cost him everything, he had chosen to stay, and the crew had chosen to believe. The days after Thalan's arrest were quiet but cold. The crew kept working, but the warmth was gone. People spoke in low voices, and some no longer smiled at Cale, even though he had done the right thing. It still hurt. Cale stayed busy. He helped Harper in engineering, trained new technicians, and fixed what he could, but the silence followed him. He didn't complain. He understood. Trust was hard to earn, easy to break, and betrayal even when stopped left scars. Captain Elena Rowe called him to her office. She sat behind a small desk, eyes calm but serious. Cale sat across from her. Back straight, hands folded. "We received a message," she said. Cale tensed. "From who?" "From a Varnak command ship," Elena replied. "Not like the last one. This one claims to be neutral." Cale frowned. "There are no neutral Varnak." He said, "Maybe not before," she said, "but this one says they want peace." She handed him a data tablet. Cale read the message slowly. The words were formal, full of old-style respect. It was signed by Admiral Kareth, a name Cale had only heard in stories. Kareth was powerful. Cale said, "Smart, strong. Respected by many. He wants to speak to you," Elena said. "He says you have something that belongs to them." Cale looked up, confused. "What does he mean?" "He didn't say," Elena replied, "but he asked for a meeting." Cale leaned back. "What if it's another trap?" Elena nodded. "It might be," she said, "but we'll go prepared." A day later, the human ship approached a neutral space station. It was an old structure, floating alone in the middle of a dead zone. No weapons, no guards, only old metal and blinking lights. Cale, Elena, and Reed entered the docking bay carefully. They were met by 3 tall Varnak soldiers in silver armor. They didn't raise weapons, didn't speak. A few minutes later, Admiral Kareth entered the room. He walked with power, his face old but sharp. His eyes locked onto Cale immediately. "You are the one they talk about," Kareth said, "the traitor who became human." Cale didn't flinch. "I didn't become anything," he said. "I made a choice." Kareth smiled. "I respect that," he said. "Most would have died instead." Elena stepped forward. "Why are we here?" she asked. Kareth turned to her. "Because I offer something rare," he said. "Peace." He looked back at Cale. "We want to rebuild. Not with war, but with unity. You understand both sides now. You can help us lead the new future." Cale stared at him. "You want me to join you?" "Yes," Kareth said. "We offer you rank, honor, and home." Reed stepped forward. "And what about the humans?" he asked. "The crew he protected." Kareth raised a brow. "They are free to go," he said. "They are not our concern." Cale felt a strange pull inside him. This was what he once dreamed, of respect, belonging, purpose, but something didn't feel right. "You speak of peace," Cale said, "but you offer it with power." Kareth didn't blink. "Power keeps peace," he said. "No," Cale said. "Trust keeps peace." Kareth frowned. "You disappoint me," he said. Cale turned to Elena. "I've made my choice," he said. Kareth stepped closer. "You'll regret this," he warned. You will always be a stranger to them. Kale looked him in the eye. Maybe, he said. But I'd rather be a stranger among honest people than a hero among liars. The three left the station in silence, back on the human ship. Kale stood on the bridge. The stars looked the same, but his heart felt lighter. You didn't hesitate, Alina said. Why? Because I saw his eyes. Kale replied. He didn't want peace. He wanted power in a new name. Reed nodded. I've met men like him, he said. Doesn't matter what flag they fly. The crew slowly learned of Kale's choice. Some were shocked, some impressed. But none questioned his loyalty again. Later, Kale visited Thalen in his cell. His brother looked tired, but alert. You met Kareth. Thalen said, yes. Kale replied. He offered everything, and you said no. Thalen said, surprised. I said no because I finally understand something. Kale replied, honor means nothing without honesty. Thalen looked at the wall. I thought joining them was our only chance. He said, we can build something better. Kale said, not with fear, but with choice. Thalen didn't answer, but he didn't argue either. Later that night, Kale sat alone in the commons area. Luca joined him with 2 mugs of tea. You did something big, Luca said. You said no to everything you once wanted. Kale nodded, because now I know what I really want. He said, not power, not medals, just a place where I'm trusted. You've got that, Luca said. Here, with us. Kale smiled. For the first time in his life, he felt full. Not with food, not with pride, but with peace. I had made the choice, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He was no longer between 2 worlds. He was standing in the one he chose, and it felt right. The stars outside the ship moved slowly, each one like a small light in the dark sky. Inside the ship, there was peace. No alarms, no attacks, no shouting, just calm. Kale stood near the observation window. His hands were behind his back, and his eyes stared into the distance. So much had happened. He had lost his home, his family, his people, but he had also found something better than a title or a command. He had found trust. Captain Alina Rowe walked in quietly. She stood beside him without saying a word. Together, they watched the stars. Where are we going next? Kale asked after a while. To the Haven colony, Alina said. They're looking for new crew, new minds, and new allies. Kale nodded slowly. Do you think they'll accept someone like me? They'll accept someone like you more than you know, Lena said. You saved a ship, protected a crew, and made a choice that most couldn't. Kale looked down for a moment. I'm not sure what I am anymore, he said. Not Varnock. Not human. You're Kale. Alina replied, and that's enough. Later, in the commons area, the crew had gathered. It wasn't a meeting, just a quiet gathering. Some were drinking tea, some were reading, some just sitting together. Kale entered and was surprised to see Reed stand up. Reed walked over and held out a small silver badge. It had the ship's name and a small blue light that glowed softly. You earned this, Reed said. It's yours now. Kale took it slowly. What is it? Crew pin, Luca said, smiling. Only full crew members wear it. Kale looked at the badge. He had never worn one before. In his old world, badges were given to soldiers who followed orders, but this one meant something else. It meant he belonged. Kale pinned it to his shirt. Everyone clapped, soft but honest. Even those who once feared him now smiled. Even Harper, the ship's tough engineer, gave him a nod of respect. You're one of us now, Reed said. Don't forget that. The next morning, the ship reached Haven Colony. It was a large space station built around a peaceful planet. Ships from different species came and went. There were trade ships, science vessels, and old freighters. Kale looked out the window as they docked. He saw aliens of many kinds walking together. No guards, no weapons, just life. Normal, simple, beautiful. Captain Alina led the team out first. Cale followed as he stepped onto the station's floor. He paused. He had walked on many surfaces before, but this one felt different. It felt like a beginning. They were welcomed by station leaders. Documents were signed, cargo checked, systems updated. Cale was assigned to speak at a small council meeting. The leaders wanted to know more about his experience. He stood in front of 12 beings, human, alien, hybrid, all equal. Your file is interesting. One of them said, "You were once a Varnak soldier." "Yes," Cale replied, "but now you serve on a human crew." Another asked, "Why?" Cale looked around the room. "I lost everything," he said. "My home, my people, my purpose. I was alone, broken, drifting in space." He paused. Then a human voice reached me. He said, "Not with orders. Not with threats, but with kindness." She said, "You're safe now." And I believed her. The room stayed silent. Even the most serious faces seemed moved. Cale continued, "I don't know what I am," he said, "but I know who I want to be. I want to protect, to help, and to grow. And if you allow me, I want to do that here." The council gave him permission to stay. Not as a visitor, but as a citizen of Haven. Back on the ship, Cale packed his few things. He had decided to live part-time on the station and part-time on the ship. He would help train new crew, guide new arrivals, and be a bridge between species. Before he left for his new quarters, he visited the med bay one last time. His brother Thalon was still recovering. Cale stood at the door, unsure. Thalon looked up. "You're leaving?" He asked. "Not forever," Cale said. "I'll be close." There was silence for a moment. Then Thalon asked, "Do you really trust them now?" "Yes," Cale replied. "They gave me more than a second chance." Thalon leaned back. "I don't understand it," he said, "but maybe." "I don't need to. You'll see it one day," Cale said. "When someone tells you you're safe now and means it." Cale walked out. The halls felt bright. The lights above seemed warmer than before. Maybe it was the same ship, but it felt like home later that night. Cale stood on his small balcony at the Haven station. He looked at the stars again, the same stars that once felt cold and endless. Now they looked like guides. Every light reminded him of a step he took, a step from fear to trust, from pain to peace. Captain Alina joined him. She stood beside him, holding 2 cups of tea. She handed him one and smiled. "You've come a long way," she said. "So have you," Cale replied. They stood in silence, watching the stars. Then Alina said softly, "You're safe now." Cale turned to her and gave a small smile. "I know," he said, "and so are you."